Hey there, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. And today we are going to be talking about True Detective Season 4, Episode 1. Now, this will be full of spoilers, so if you have not seen this episode and you don't want to be spoiled, I recommend you watching it first, coming back, and checking out the review. Now, I have been looking for a good TV show for quite a while to watch, and I have always been a big fan of True Detective Season 1. When I saw the trailers for this season, seeing Jodie Foster, the environment, it gave off a very kind of like The Thing atmosphere, which is one of my favorite sci-fi horror movies. I was like, all right, cool. Let's give this thing a chance. Maybe, just maybe, this will not be typical Hollywood nonsense. And I was 100% wrong. Now, it's not the worst thing that I've ever seen in the world. There are definitely some moments in this that I enjoyed. Definitely some moments that I was just like, dear God, why are you saying this or doing this? And I'm not 100% like finished after one episode, okay? I believe there's 6 total. And after the first one, I am still intrigued and want to find out more about what is exactly going on. But I do have to say this, unfortunately, they fall into the normal garbage that Hollywood does with a lot of things, and I will go into detail as to what those things are. But let's dive in and carve this episode up. So we start off the episode by watching this hunter who is tracking some caribou, trying to, wait for the best shot, and we see that they start acting a little off and a little weird, to the point where this whole pack of caribou kind of freak out, take off, and ultimately jump to their deaths. Now, I don't have really any major problem with that. I mean, it's obviously weird, and it's like, okay, why did that happen? But this is one major issue that I had right from the very beginning. CGI. If you are going to use CGI in a movie or TV show, it's gotta be good. And this might be nitpicky for some of you, but I do movie reviews for the channel, so I have to kind of pay attention to that stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, the CGI took me out of it, like at least for this scene and the polar bear scene, which I'll be talking about here later. It just wasn't good. It's just really bad CGI. And if I notice this stuff while I'm watching, it's taking me out of the experience. It's taking me out of getting lost in the show. And it was a little cringe. Again, it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but I wish if you're going to invest the money, just make it a little bit better or just take it out at all. But again, minor nitpick. Now, moving on to the next scene, we then see this kind of government outpost. Like I said, it was very The Thing-esque, right? Where you have all these scientists doing their thing, right? You got one who's on the treadmill, one who's kind of in the kitchen, one's doing laundry, and the one in the kitchen has their cell phone set up like they're live streaming or recording or something. And when he moves out of the way, we see that one of the guys is standing there with his back to everybody, and he starts having like a seizure. And then he turns to the camera and he says, "She's awake." Now, that is a reoccurring thing. And again, right from there, I have no problem with this. It's like, all right, cool. Let's see what's happening. Now, that leads me to one thing about True Detective Season 4 that I would say True Detective Season 1 did not have. This seems like it's got some paranormal stuff going on, and I'll get into more of that later when we talk about the Rose character. I don't know how I feel about that as of yet. That's not really a normal thing for True Detective, so now that we have somewhat of a ghostly element involved, I'm not completely turned off by it, but it's something I didn't expect. Now, after that scene, obviously, we have this delivery guy who shows up. This is clearly sometime later on, and he shows up to the facility, and there's no one around. Ferris Bueller's Day Off still playing in the background. The popcorn was still just made like you saw earlier. It looks like they just vanished. Now, you do see, and they kind of tease that there's some movement down the hallway, but you don't know exactly what it is or who it is. And then he's in the kitchen, drops his keys, and there we see the infamous severed tongue, which is clearly going to be playing a very important role in the series. Right after that scene is where we get introduced to the very first main character of the series, and that is Trooper Navarro. Now, there's a lot wrong, in my opinion, with Trooper Navarro. Not the fact that she's a female, okay? I have absolutely zero problem with her being a female, but I have a lot of problems with the way they've wrote this character and how they casted the character. This character clearly should have been a man. The way they wrote it, the way they depicted it, and look, I have nothing against tattoos and things of that nature, but state troopers specifically, have very high standards across the board. And it doesn't really matter what state you go to. Pretty much any state you go to and you look up the application for a state trooper or anything, they are very strict standards. And I guarantee that you are not allowed to be a state trooper anywhere with cheek piercings and neck tattoos to the point where you look like a gang member. And that's what she looks like, a freaking gang member. Maybe the normie out there that doesn't know anything about law enforcement, this may not affect them, but she just does not have that look of a state trooper, okay? That's number one. So being introduced to this character, we see her coming on scene of what looked like an assault case where this guy's laying on the floor, he's all bloodied up, and when we do a little bit more investigating, we find out that this guy is the boyfriend of the girl who has like ice on her eye, and he beats her. Well, the friend or the coworker hit this guy with a bucket in the face, breaking his nose. When the guy wakes up, gets crazy angry, flips out, and you see Trooper Navarro drop this big dude to the ground. Now, look, he's a pretty big guy. He's not small. She's not the smallest woman in the world, but it's very unlikely that she would be able to manhandle this guy that easy. If this guy that she manhandled was like smaller than her and he was a smaller dude, it would be a little bit more believable, okay? But this guy was pretty big. Even for, like I said, a dude, it would be hard for him to do what she was capable of doing. And the fact that she was just able to do that no problem is really not believable. Then on top of that, we see that she's asking the girl, are you willing to press charges? And she's arresting this guy. Okay, unfortunately, we already know that this other woman smashed him in the face with a bucket, breaking his nose. They're both going to jail. The fact that she's not going to jail because she's a woman and he's going to jail because he's a dude, you already see the writing on the wall. They both should have went to jail. Not the girl with the thing on her eye, but the one who had the bucket and hit him in the face. And again, this might be very nitpicky, but she should not have been on scene by herself either. Where's her backup? Why is she the only state trooper? Why are there not other police there? Very strange, but I know what they're trying to do. This is the introduction to the character. They want to show her off as this big, bad, tough state trooper, and it's just not believable. So those are the types of things where I say, like, when you're watching a TV show and it takes you out because it's so unrealistic. I'm not saying it has to be down to the wire realism, but it's got to be believable, and that wasn't believable. To the point where when she takes him down and cuffs him up, right, and she's picking him up, and he's kind of resisting, right? He's talking shit to her and kind of struggling and everything. She's able to manhandle him with one arm as she's answering a telephone. Again, it's like, come on, this is a big guy. If he was, 5'2" and weighed 110 pounds wet, maybe I'd understand that, but it's not the case. So anyway, so she answers the phone, and you can clearly tell she got the call about these missing people and more than likely about the tongue, which is going to be, like I said, playing an important role later on. Then we get the introduction to the second main character, and that is Chief Danvers, who is played by Jodie Foster. Now, I like Jodie Foster. I think she's a good actress, but there's a couple times throughout this episode where the acting is really rough. Very, very poor. A lot of cringe lines. The accent that she's trying to portray, it's like as if it was written for somebody else and they just like, nope, this is for you and you're going to make this work. But we get introduced to her. She is on scene with a couple other police officers, one of them being Officer Hank Pryor and then his son, Pete Pryor. So we get introduced to those characters as well. And they are at the facility investigating the disappearance. Now, upon investigating, they're kind of trying to figure out what they even do at this facility because they clearly have no idea. And Officer Pete Pryor is explaining to the chief that their mission statement here at this facility is to study Arctic geology, biology, and fighting climate change. Now, look, anybody who has a brain out there that's not like stuck in this bubble knows that climate change is going to be something that is going to piss some people off. You could tell that it was intentionally put in there, and they didn't have to. It could have just been Arctic geology and biology, and that's it. Simple. Boom. Done. That no one cares about that. But when you put climate change in there, there's going to be people out there where it rings a bell and you're like, oh God, because this is a constant political talking point that is going on in the world right now that divides people. Again, it's not the biggest thing in the world, but when you are going to watch these TV shows for escapism from everyday life, I don't want a current political talking point that is a heated debate or a heated discussion on each side of the aisle thrown in my face. Okay, I think that's a fair ask. Just talk about normal stuff. It wasn't necessary. We could have not had that line in there and it wouldn't have made a difference. And then on top of that, 2 seconds later, they're talking about what are they actually digging up around here? What are they doing? And the police officer goes, I don't know. I think they're trying to find the origin of life. What the fuck does that have to do with climate change? Okay. You know the politics of the people that are really involved in the show based on the ideology that's sprinkled throughout. So that's clearly why that was put into the show. So as they are investigating, looking around what's going on, they come across the tongue, and Chief Danvers is apparently a tongue expert. Apparently she knows all about severed tongues. She can just look at a tongue and go, nope, that tongue belongs to a native woman.
What?
Nobody else finds that very strange. Oh, the marks on her tongue is from repetitive behavior, and that's from fish. Like, come on, dude. Really? The next scene is where we get introduced to Rose, and that's where you start to really lean into the paranormal stuff of what's going on. This woman is clearly another strong female. You could see her gutting a wolf. She's seeing what looks like a ghost. Now, at this moment in the show, they don't necessarily tell you it's a ghost, but by looking at this person, the guy has like a t-shirt on and no shoes, and he's just standing there not reacting to the weather. And based on her face, you can kind of tell it's a ghost. Now, it turns out to be her dead son, which again is very odd and strange. It's not normal for a true detective. So moving on, we then see Chief Danvers arrive back at the police station, and who's waiting in her office? None other than Trooper Navarro. They've definitely had issues before. We find out that Navarro used to actually work at this police force before she became a trooper, and there's clearly tension there. But after that scene, we then get introduced to Chief Danvers, I think either granddaughter or something to that effect. I know it's not her daughter. They don't specifically say as of yet. She gets a phone call, an irate woman. We come to learn that this child that Chief Danvers is responsible for is dating this woman's other daughter, and they make a inappropriate video. So this is one of the scenes where the acting from Jodie Foster is absolutely terrible. So after she picks up the granddaughter, daughter, whatever she is to her, well, on the way back, she's doing like the motherly thing and like ripping her ass, basically saying, how can you make a video like that? The internet's forever. You know better, blah, blah, blah. They almost get into a wreck because a speeding car passes. It's a drunk driver, crashes, and Jodie Foster's character is just ripping into her ass. Like, what's wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. Pulls her out. And the dialogue that she's saying is so bad. It's like, it's almost kind of like voiced over. If you rewatch it a couple times, it just sounds so out of place and just very, very bad acting. It's kind of cringe. So then we learn as to why Trooper Navarro is even involved in this stuff, and it's because of a cold case from long ago where it was a young native woman who was essentially killed, and it was a cold case. They never found the killer. Her tongue was cut out, and this was when Trooper Navarro was working with Chief Danvers at her department. She never was able to solve the case, and she is still determined to this day to solve it. So that's why she's even around investigating and looking into this stuff. She then goes to see a relative of the woman who died long ago to just try to find out any more information about it. Trooper Navarro, while she is speaking to this relative, she's a military vet. We see kind of this flashback of her talking to like a half-dead soldier because he's like missing half his head. We find out that the woman who died long ago was a protester, and a lot of people at the mines and in this area, because she was an environmentalist type of protester, they wanted her gone. Like, she was causing a problem. So there's a lot of people that were probably happy that she was dead, but they could obviously never pinpoint anything. So it was another piece of the puzzle that we found out about this girl. The next scene, they take us over to Officer Peter Pryor, the son of Hank Pryor, and kind of give a little insight onto his life. I don't know if he's married, but he's obviously had a kid with a native woman. I'm going to call her his wife, even though they may not be married. But he and the wife start like going at it almost right in front of the son. The son's right there. They go in the other room. She's sticking her hands down his pants. Like, she's the aggressive one. She's the one like biting on his neck and stuff. I mean, your kid's right there. I get it. Look, trust me, I understand. but there's a time and a place. Your kid is literally awake in the other room, and it felt weird. It just felt odd. I don't know. And again, they made the woman the aggressor in that situation, not the dude. Normally, it's like the other way around. Like the dude's trying to get in the girl's pants. Now it's the girl trying to get in the dude's pants. All the roles that should have been males, I feel like have been flipped. And all the man characters are women, and all the women characters have been turned into men. But anyway, as he's with his wife at home, the chief calls and says, hey, I really need that cold case file from back in the day. Your dad has it at his house. I need you to sneak in there, grab it, and bring it over. So that's what he does. He goes and visits his dad, and that's how we get introduced to his dad and his kind of living situation, Hank Pryor. And he has some like mail order bride coming over. So he's kind of getting the house ready for her. He's lonely, obviously. Everyone in this show is like a strange, broken person. It's very odd. But so he goes over to the dad's house, gets the file, throws it out the window, but while he's not looking, and then the son takes it over to the chief's house. And that's what we find out about this cold case from long ago. A little bit more of the details, where she was like stabbed a lot of times and had her tongue cut out and all this stuff. During that scene too, that's where we actually find out the history of Navarro's involvement and why she's looking so much into this case. This next scene is probably the scene that I was just like, are you kidding me? Oh my God. So Trooper Navarro makes a stop. And basically, she is going to a booty call, okay? She's going to see her side dude or her main dude, whatever he is. They don't really say what he is. But this sex scene was very aggressive, okay? And she is the aggressor.
I wish I could tell you that Andy fought the good fight and the sisters let him be. I wish I could tell you that. But prison is no fairy tale world.
She's the one in charge. She's the one doing everything. And it's, again, you don't usually see that in a show. It's usually like the dude is the aggressor. The dude is going over there for the booty call, right? The dude is the one who is the dominant one. And this is not the case at all. Clearly dominant and in charge and on top and like forcefully taking what she wants. This dude is very submissive, even afterwards, right? Like he's very lovey-dovey, like, oh, I wish you would stay. And, oh, you don't have to leave. And she's like, nah, I got things to do. You know what I mean? And she's clearly the dude. Like, she gets up, she got her thing, gets dressed, and she's out. And he's just sitting there. Here's the thing. Even if the roles were reversed on this, even if she was a dude, the sex scene, what did that accomplish, right? What was the purpose? What did that show? I could say the reverse about a male. Like, these types of scenes in shows, regardless of male, female, whatever, are all unnecessary. I don't enjoy them. Like, they're just pointless. You're just putting it in there just for vulgarity, I feel like, at this point. And I'm no, like, Bible-thumping human being, right? But why? What was the point? I got nothing out of it, nothing gained, and, like, it was just an irrelevant scene. So after that scene, then we jump back to Danvers, and she's brushing her teeth, and her, like I said, daughter or granddaughter, whatever it is, they have this kind of bathroom conversation, and they're talking about the drunk driver, and Danvers completely ignores it. So they're alluding, obviously, that something happened in the past that Danvers is hiding. A lot of these people, like I said, are broken people, and you're not learning everything right away. So I would assume, if I had to take a guess right now, that Chief Danvers' actual daughter died of like a DUI, and this is like her granddaughter or something. So here's where we kind of get to more of the paranormal stuff, okay? We see Chief Danvers sleeping in bed, and kind of this female's arm goes over her, and you hear that whisper again of she's awake. She gets up and she picks up this polar bear stuffed animal that only has one eye. Literally the next scene after that, you see Trooper Navarro driving, talking on the phone, asking questions about that girl again, doing investigative work. She slams on the brakes, and there's a one-eyed polar bear in the middle of the road. Again, I don't know how all this ties together. Another odd scene is, like I said, we've jumped back to Danvers, and she's taking all the photographs, and she's laying out all the photographs, and she lays them in this very weird circle. That's odd. Why? That's so dramatic. She lays all that out, and she notices that one of the photographs of this girl who died long ago her jacket matches up to one of these scientists' jackets. So then we see her back at the facility investigating, and she sees a shadow, so she draws her gun, does her thing, and who's there? Trooper Navarro. So again, looking and investigating into everything, and that's where they're discussing this cold case girl. Trooper Navarro explains that none of this would have happened if she was white. That if she was a white girl, all of the police would have been looking for her killer. It wouldn't be a cold case. They all would have investigated. Now, I will say this. Jodie Foster's character pops right back and says, "Oh, no, you were here. I wasn't here. You were here, though, and you could have closed the case, and you didn't." And she responds and goes, "Exactly." So that just negated your whole racial comment 2 seconds ago, and they just completely bypassed that. So the whole nonsense of, oh, if she was a white girl, it was so unnecessary. Again, you could tell the intentions behind these lines because that's what the showrunner is trying to push. So while they're in the facility, Danvers gets a phone call, and as they're in this facility again, the lights start acting weird. We see that multiple times throughout the episode, like the static electricity thing and they keep hearing these little things like she's awake. So we jump to the next scene, and we find out that Rose, that woman that was walking through the wilderness, that she's seeing her dead son's ghost, led her to 3 of the scientists basically frozen in the ice. Danvers and Navarro arrive. They see Rose, and they ask Rose, like, "Hey, how'd you know that this was here?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah, my son told me." And they're like, "Your son's dead." And she's like, "I know." Well, okay. And that's it. And then you see the very ending where I believe there's only 3 of them that they show. I don't know if they found all of them or if it's just 3 of them. I have no clue, but that's where it ends. So is it the worst thing in the world? No, not at all. It's not the worst thing in the world. I'm still intrigued. I want to know what happened to them. Like, how did they get out there? Is it Annie doing it? Annie being the girl who died long ago, like her spirit or something? I have zero idea. Like I said, I'm interested to see how they take this with the paranormal twist, because I was not expecting that at all. And I just kind of want to see what happens. With all the other like nonsense that they have thrown into this, little jabs of these agendas and the social justice commentary kind of crap, it's not the end of the world. It's just some of those things take me out of it. But we'll have to wait and see what episode 2 and 3 and whatever else happens at the season. Like I said, it's still a lot left because it's only episode 1 of 6. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts are of the episode. Did you like the show so far? Are you completely tapped out? Are you loving it? Let me know. And like I said, it's okay to disagree. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. If you're loving this, awesome. If you're hating this, great. It's fine either way. Like I said, let me know in the comments below. Always love to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And until next time, take care.